is it going, folks? Hello. Welcome. Welcome to the channel. This is going to be an awkward intro, but we are here. We are back for another season of the Platinum Draft League. We are in Season 5. It's crazy that this has been going on for 5 seasons already. So we're here. We're running with Season 5. If you've seen other series of Platinum Draft League I have on my channel, then you know what's going on. If you haven't, feel free to watch those. They will be all over the place. I can probably even drop them in the description if I remember, but you can find them. We have the past 2 seasons on my channel. We don't go all the way back because I only started making this series back in Season 3, but I will. But yeah, we're here today for another Platinum Draft League and another super nice PowerPoint for you all, because this is the only real way I know how to present this other than a super long edited video that I don't have any time for, so this is how we're going to do it. So if you've seen these before, you know what's going on. If you don't, I'll explain it. Basically, what's going to happen for this episode is I'm going to take you through, show you the 12 Pokemon that I have on my team, kind of go through them a bit. What are their abilities, what moves they can do, what are their strengths and weaknesses, and just kind of overall just give you an idea of how I'm planning to use the team in the future. And then next, starting in the next week, we will have the battles coming out, which are the fun stuff that everyone's worried about. Sorry if you're hearing noise. I'm adjusting my microphone, so hopefully it picks me up better, because I have a tendency to stare away from the microphone. Anyways, we can open it up. So as you know, last season we had a bit of a rough season. We went 3-7, ended up in the bottom half, did not make it to playoffs, which is unfortunate. But I'm hoping to make it to playoffs this time. I think I have drafted a more balanced team. We have a lot more useful offense and a little bit less defense, but our defense is very good. We have some nice utility and nice options for hazard removal and setting, and we have tons of options for just how to overall play our games better. So hopefully we'll be able to see some cool stuff. So let us go ahead and kick off this review with our first Pokemon, which is actually the Mega that I chose for this season, and that is Mega Agron. Mega Agron, as you can see, is a pretty impressive Pokemon with a whopping 230 base defense, which means that if any Pokemon tries hitting it with physical moves, it's going to be very hard to break through us. So we are a great physical wall, and our base 140 attack also makes us a great physical attacker. The one place we are kind of lacking where it's important is HP and special defense. They're still decent, but they're not as high as most walls will have. But with our defense, that HP won't matter much, but with our HP special defense, it's kind of a rough matchup. So special attackers are definitely Mega Agron's weakness, but we can get around those. In terms of abilities, as you see, we have a bunch. Most of those are pre-megas. The one we're looking at really is Filter. Filter is a very important one to us because if you don't know what Filter does, it will make it so that any super effective moves to us are cut by a quarter of their normal damage. So instead of something being 2 times effective, it is 1.75 times effective, which while may not seem like a lot, can mean a lot when it comes down to chip damage and stuff. It's also much more useful because when we turn into Mega Agron, we lose our rock typing, so we don't have to worry about being quad weak to things like fighting moves and ground moves, and we can take a lot more punishment than we would normally would as normal Agron. Plus, we have plenty of coverage moves for Pokemon who give us trouble, like the normal fire types and other stuff. We have tons of coverage, including earthquakes and rock moves. We also get a ton of unusual coverage. We get moves like Avalanche, Fire Punch, Thunder Punch. In terms of utility, we have Stealth Rocks, we have Toxic, we have Substitutes. Honestly, I think this Pokemon is a great balance between being an offensive Mega and being a good utility Mega, which may seem like a weird spot to have your Mega be a utility spot, but if we can use it that way, we can. Plus, I have seen some interesting setup sets with things like curse sets and with, Hone Claw sets, so we can mess around with those if we need to, because being able to just buff up our defenses to a ridiculous amount is something that a lot of people are scared of. Plus, we can do a rest set. Because we have all that defense, we should be able to hold our own against against physical offense threats, and we should be able to power through and be able to rest through that. So yeah, I think Mega Agron's going to be very interesting. It's kind of like Sableye from last season, except it actually has some sort of offense, so that way we don't always just get pressured into a corner. Plus, we don't have to worry about Toxic, which is very nice. But we do have other statuses to worry about, such as Burns, which can cut our attack, make us less useful, and Paralysis, which, while the speed isn't that big, those turns of actual paralysis can be bad. But thankfully, I drafted a mon who can help us with that, and that is Tapufini. So Tapufini is one of the 4 Tapus, in which I think 3 out of the 4 were drafted this season, so it's going to be interesting. But the big thing with Tapufini is the Misty Surge ability, because that will set up Misty Terrain. If you don't know what Misty Terrain does, it will make it so that Pokemon in the field cannot get hit with status effects like Poison or Paralysis or Sleep. And it also makes it so that Fairy moves are stronger and Dragon moves are weaker. But yeah, Tapufini and Mega Agron are a great pairing, especially if you look at their stats. You can see that Tapufini has a lot of special defense, which helps buff out Mega Agron's lacking physical defense. Plus, Tapufini also tanks those fire and fighting moves that Mega Agron is a little bit scared of, which is nice. The one unfortunate part for Tapufini is it doesn't really have a lot of reliable recovery. It doesn't get things like Recover or anything. We can play around with things like Aqua Ring, or we can also do Draining Kiss, which has gotten buffed and has been made a bit more useful, which I'm tempted to play around with, because even though it's only, even though it's only 50 base power, we recover 75% of the health we do in damage, so that's pretty wild, and that can be useful, especially in things like a scenario where we Calm Mind up, or in scenarios where we have a substitute up. So there's a lot to play around with Tapufini, but another reason I drafted it is because it's a surprisingly good defogger. Having these high defenses and being able to tank a lot of hits with the Water Fairy typing combo, it makes for a nice defogger. But like I said, it can also make for a good setup sweeper, or it can just make for a Pokemon that can kind of come in, tank hits, and scare things out. The only problem with Tapufini is that the one useful part of water types being the chance of just scalding and getting burns is kind of null and void, because we'll always have that Misty Surge up, meaning that the only time we'll be able to get scald burns is if we swap in on a turn where our Misty Surge is going out, which probably won't happen too much, but it could. But yeah, honestly, I mostly drafted Tapufini because it was great support. It provided some good utility alongside Mega Agron, and it's just a Pokemon that I like having around. Up next, we have a familiar face to the team. It's Azelf, our kill leader from last season. I won't go much into Azelf because I already went into it a lot in Season 4, and if you watch the Season 4, then you'll know how much it did for us. But yeah, Azelf is an incredible Pokemon. Base 115 speed, 125 in both attacking stats, making it easily able to swap between physical and special, so that way I can try to psych opponents out. Has a ton of coverage moves, including your normal Psychic, Fairy, Ghost, but also lots of moves including Fire, Electric. I think we have a Grass Knot or two. But yeah, overall, this Pokemon is just very offensive. It's a great threat, and with that speed stat, it makes it... Ooh, excuse me. It makes it a great Pokemon to kind of scare out slower options who don't want to take a high damage move from an Azelf, especially if we're Nasty Plot boosted. So yeah, lots of good options there. Anyways, moving on. We have our next Pokemon, which is Dawnfan. So Dawnfan is kind of in the same boat as Mega Agron, except in our case, it's a little bit less defense, but a little bit more HP. But Dawnfan's a useful Pokemon. Sturdy is really the only ability we'll use because Sandveil is technically banned because evasion boosting is not allowed in our league. But Sturdy's good because it'll allow us to come in and guarantee to take one hit if we ever run into a scenario like that. So that can definitely be something that we can play around with. But the one reason I drafted Dawnfan is because it makes for both a great rock setter and a great rock remover, being very bulky with stealth rocks and with rapid spin. It's just overall a nice Pokemon to have, plus now that Rapid Spin gets that speed boost, it has a little bit extra utility that we can use with it. In terms of moves, he does have some surprising coverage. Of course, it's mostly things like rock and ground moves, but he does have some interesting moves in his arsenal, such as Superpower, Fire Fang, Seed Bomb, Poison Jab, Play Rough. There's a lot of surprising utility with Dawnfan. And it's a Pokemon that usually gets drafted a lot, and it's a Pokemon I looked at drafting in the past, but whenever it came around to my turn, it was usually already gone. Of course, the big problem with Dawnfan is that it has no real way of making recovery, so any damage on Dawnfan is damage that it's going to have permanently, so as much as Dawnfan would feel like a good idea to swap into a lot of scenarios, any big damage is going to be a problem because that's not damage we can really get rid of. Unless we have leftovers, in which case it's still going to take like 10 turns until we get all that HP back. But it's still a useful Pokemon, good for setting rocks, good for removing rocks, and can be a good threat to not just electric types, but a lot of types that fear ground types, especially steels, because most steels are physical, and we can definitely scare those out. Next up, we have our speed tier, Noivern. So, last time our speed tier was Crobat, who was 130. This time we're a little bit slower. Noivern is only a 123, but that's still a pretty decent speed tier. I don't know why that HP at the top is cut off a little bit. Oh well, I'll just stop looking at it. But yeah, Noivern is a pretty good Pokemon. It's a nice dragon type. Even though its special attack is a little bit on the low side, it has a nice balance, which a lot of Pokemon lack, and I think that balance is something that we can utilize a lot. In terms of abilities, we have some interesting abilities. Telepathy is useless, we're never going to use it. But we do have two interesting abilities. We have Frisk, which makes it so that whenever Noivern comes in, we can see whatever item our opponent is holding. So that way we can pin down items, and then we can use that to sort of help plan our strategies. And we also have Infiltrator, which makes it so that we ignore reflects, screens, safeguards, substitutes, anything. Which is the same ability that Crobat actually had last season. So we're going to have to see how this compares to Crobat. I think even though it's a little bit slower, it has more offense, which can be a good boost. In terms of moves, we have your usual dragon flying moves. We also have a lot of fire moves. We have U-turn for pivoting. We have Shadow Ball in case we need to take out a psychic type. We have Boom Burst, which overall is just a powerful move, unless they have ghosts or Pokemon that resist it. Yeah, we have a lot of moves. Noivern, thanks to its surprising mix of stats, can either be a good offensive threat, or we can run it as a more defensive threat with things like Roost, U-turn, and Defog for hazard removal. So Noivern has that little bit of utility. Obviously, the big problem with Noivern is that if we want to run it as our defogger, we will probably have to put boots on it, because boots have just kind of become a mainstay now, where having boots is almost required, because a lot of Pokemon don't want to take that 25% chip. But who knows, maybe with our speed stat we'll be able to take that chip, heal up before they can really damage us, and then just focus on that. But yeah, I think Noivern's going to be a great utility to the team. Definitely having fast U-turning is awesome, and being able to defog things away and have a nice offensive threat is very cool. Next up, we have our grass type Rosary. Rosary is a nice little 90 speed tier. It's also very good on the special side. Fortunately, its physical side is a little bit lacking, but luckily we have a Pokemon who's great on the physical side, which is our Agron. So those two can complement each other fairly well, especially since some of their weaknesses are balanced between each other, so they can sort of support each other. In terms of abilities, Natural Cure is good, because anytime we swap out and we have a status effect, it will immediately disappear, which is awesome. Poison Point, I guess we could use it, but we're not very physical, so I don't really see a situation where we would want to use it. And then Technician, which would be good if Hidden Power was still around, but it's not, so oh well. In terms of moves, we have your normal grass and poison moves. We also have access to moves like Dazzling Gleam for fairy coverage, Extra Sensory for psychic moves, Shadow Ball. We have Weather Ball, so in case an opponent has a weather team, which I think there are a couple weather teams, we have that Weather Ball, so that way we can kind of catch them off guard with their own weather. But we also have a lot of useful utility, including Toxic, Synthesis, Substitutes. We have Spikes and Toxic Spikes as another form of hazards that we didn't have last season. Actually, we had Spikes last season. We didn't have Toxic Spikes. Yeah, we have tons of recovery options. We can set up Spikes or Toxic Spikes to weaken our opponent's defenses. We have tons of moves. We can Leech Seed to sort of drain away bulky Pokemon's HPs. We have Aromatherapy as sort of a backup cleric in case we don't have Mystery Terrain around. Overall, Rosarade's an interesting Pokemon. It's definitely something that can use a lot of bulk, but it's also something that can be a bit of a faster offense. I like having Pokemon that can do that. I like Pokemon that can either do nice bulk or do a fast offense, because when you have a Pokemon who is very one-note, which we do have a couple Pokemon who are like that, then it's very easy to find ways around those one-note Pokemon. But when you have a Pokemon that can do a couple options, it makes your opponent think, okay, are they going to go for the offense, or are they going to go for the defense? Are they going to go for a special set, or are they going to go for a physical set? So hopefully our nice little mixes in here will help sort of build up those defenses and help us to sort of catch some people off guard and make us less predictable. But that is Roserade. Next up, we're going to go into Raichu. Raichu, as you know, is a Pokemon I wanted to draft last season, but unfortunately it was taken from me, so we had to go for Electabuzz. But we actually have Raichu this season, which is awesome. We have Static, which is the same ability that Electabuzz had last season, but the one I'm looking at right now is Lightning Rod. Lightning Rod is an awesome ability because it gives us an immunity to electric attacks, because anytime we come in, electric attacks do no damage, and they boost our special defense by a single stage, special attack by a single stage, which is pretty good in the long term. Having a nice little boost on a free switch-in is something that people have to be scared of. Hold on, I'm gonna sneeze. No, it's gone. Wait. I think it's gone. Oh well. Anyways, yeah, it's a good Pokemon to have. It's a nice 110 speed tier with Volt Switch for the swapping potential, which makes it a good Pivotmon, which unfortunately we do not have a lot of. I think our main pivots are Noivern, Raichu, and like one or two more I'll get to. Is Azelf a Pivotmon? I think so. I know most of our pivots are fast this season. So I think it might be Azelf. Anyways, back to Raichu, the Pokemon we're talking about. Obviously, Raichu has a plenty of nice electric moves we can use. It also has some decent coverage with moves like Focus Blast. We have what else we have? I'm looking around. We have Grass Knot. We do have even physical and special, so we can run physical sets. We can do things that might seem out of the box, like Brick Break, or we can do things like Dig. If we can get a Dig off, that would be crazy. I don't think I'd ever do it, but it's something to keep in mind. But yeah, this also has a lot of stuff. Like I said, it's a nice fast pivoter. We do have Wish, so if we want, we can set up Wish, do a nice fast pivot, and then bring in something who wants a heal, like our Agron or our Tapufini. And ground types will kind of struggle because we do have that nice Grass Knot, and most ground types are pretty heavy, so that will be a lot of damage. Plus, we do have access to Nasty Plot for setup, and setting up with Nasty Plot with moves like Grass Knot, Thunderbolt, and Surf is a terrifying combo that a lot of people will be scared of. So yeah, I think Raichu is a nice electric type. Will it perform better than Electabuzz did last season? I hope so. But we'll just have to wait and let the results speak for themselves. Next up, we have our Fire type, which I think is an interesting choice, but I think it's definitely something that I can use, and that is Scorch. Is that the actual base stat total? Is it actually 525? It's not. Whose base stat total is this? Whose base stat total is this? Those are not Scorch's stats. Where did I pull these from? What? Whose stats are those? Are those yours? No? Whose are you? I don't know whose stats these are, but they're not Scorch's. What? Alright, hold on a second. I gotta figure this out. Hi everybody, sorry about that. So it turns out these in fact are Scorch stats. I don't know why when I looked at this I didn't think they're the same. Now I'm comparing them, they are the same. It's just that these stats look a lot more impressive than these stats. I don't know why. But anyways, I guess Scorch just has a surprising stat pool. 525, that's higher than, I think that's higher than all of our tier 4s. That might even be higher than some of our tier 3s. Interesting. Anyways, we have Scorch here as our fire type, who's also a bug type, which is very interesting. It does kind of suck because that means that we will take a half our damage if we have to swap in on stealth procs, which is something we do not want to do, but it's something that could happen. In terms of abilities, we have Flash Fire, which is great because it makes us immune to fire and boosts our fire moves, which can be great utility, especially paired with Mega Agron. White Smoke, which prevents our stats from dropping, which can be good if we're running a sort of setup set. And then Flame Body, which whenever we get hit by a physical move, we have a chance of burning the opponent, which also can be useful if we're running a setup set. In terms of moves, we do have a lot of fire and bug moves. We also have some interesting moves in things like Power Whip. We have access to Scald and Scorching Sands. We have Knockoff and Crunch. We do have Coil for setup, which can be a good setup move because it boosts attack, defense, and accuracy, which would allow us to use some of our less accurate moves more effectively, like Fire Blast or Power Whip. We do have access to a Will-O-Wisp user. We actually have two, but we'll get to the second one later, which is good. But yeah, I think this Pokemon can definitely be useful. Having Flash Fire paired up with Mega Agron is great. Being useful for setup, plus we could also do things like a substitute set, or we can do a rest talk set. There's a lot you can do. And having Leech Life gives it some form of reliable recovery, which is very nice. But yeah, I think this Pokemon is kind of underrated. We'll have to see how it fares with rocks, but I think since we do have the boots and we have access to a reliable recovery with Leech Life, which we can then boost with something like Coil, I think it's definitely something that we can make use of. I know before I participated in a Galar only league where I had used Scorch and it proved to be quite useful. So we'll have to see how it fares up in this league. Just what kind of things it can do. It's going to be interesting to see. Anyways, let us go ahead and move on to our next Pokemon, which is Licky Licky. The main reason I drafted Licky Licky is because Licky Licky is a great great cleric. It has access to Wish and Heal Bell, which it can then give out to other Pokemon like our Agron, who really likes it. Plus, with one of our abilities, I believe it's Oblivious. Let me double check that. Is it Oblivious? Yes. With Oblivious, it makes it so that we can't be taunted. So that way we can not have to worry about our cleric being taunted, and we can just pass wishes around nonchalantly. But we also do have Cloud9, which can be interesting, because like I said, there are weather teams about, and if we can come in and we can negate Pokemon's weather, and we can kind of punish them for not having that weather, that can be a very interesting scenario. In terms of moves, we do have a lot of normal moves. Because we are normal type, we do have access to tons of coverage moves. We have access to electric moves, rock, fighting, water ghost, dark, grass, just to name a few. We have tons of coverage, but like I said, our main form is just going to be clericking, giving wishes out to Pokemon who can't really heal that well, being a nice little bit of bulk, and being able to sort of wish protect itself to keep itself healthy. Overall, I think it's going to be a very useful Pokemon. I've seen this Pokemon used very effectively in the past, and I'm hoping that I'll be able to use it just as effectively in the future, or in the present, I don't know, I guess. But anyways, let's skip that and my poor grammar, and let's move on to Miss Magigis. Miss Magigis is a weird Pokemon, as you can see by its stat layout, where its HP and physical stats are 60, but its speed and special stats are 105. So it's very specially oriented, but it does have a little bit of physical. The great thing about Miss Magigis, obviously, besides Levitate, which makes us immune to ground moves, which gives us our 3rd ground immunity, which is great. It does have a ton of coverage. It has a lot of ghost moves, it has psychic moves, it gets mystical fire now, electric moves, it has access to energy ball and dazzling gleam. Plus it has access to setup with Calm Mind. It has access to Pain Split to sort of sap health. We can Perish Song to force Pokemon out. We can trick items onto people in case we want to try and trick like a scarf or some kind of item onto another Pokemon. We can. It does have access to Heal Bell, which can be useful to get rid of status effects. Plus, this is our other Will-O-Wisp user, which is great for having because we are kind of physically weak. But yeah, I think Miss Magigis is a strong Pokemon. I'm definitely going to make sure I can use it effectively. Having a good speed special attacker like this is awesome, but it's also good because if we want, we can also run like an Assault Vest set, make it sort of like a pseudo Goodra. But yeah, I think Miss Magigis is going to be fun, and we will see. Next up, we are coming on our lone tier 5 of the season, and that is Galarian Mr. Mime. Look at that boy go. He's schmoovin'. Galarian Mr. Mime is an interesting Pokemon because due to its not fully evolved nature, thanks to them adding Mr. Rime and its ice typing, it's a big choice of do you want to run heavy duty boots to prevent that 25% HP drop, or do you want to run Eviolite for those boosted defenses, and it's going to be interesting to see. In terms of abilities, Vital Spirit and Ice Body I see getting little use, but Screen Cleaner is an interesting one because Screen Cleaner makes it so that if we come in and the opponent has screens and we use any move, it will instantly get rid of those screens. So Pokemon like the normal screen setters like Grimmsnarl or Klefki can't really get those screens up on us, and it's something that we can sort of just, get off of it. Oh no, it's not even using a move, it's just on switching. I'm looking at the ability right now. Interesting. But yeah, this is another Rapid Spinner we can add to the team. It may be a low tier Rapid Spinner, but it could be something that they're not really expecting to come in and click Rapid Spin, so that's why it could be very useful. In terms of moves, we have Ice and Psychic. We also have a lot of coverage moves, including Grass Knot. We have Dazzling Gleam. We have Thunderbolt. We have some dark moves mixed in. We have a lot of utility, including Trick Room, which I don't know if we'll be using Trick Room a lot, but we do have a couple of nice Pokemon for some slow cores, including Pokemon like Agron and Scorch, who can be useful in a Trick Room, but we'll have to see. It all depends on the weeks. But yeah, I think this is going to be more of a sort of niche utility mon. I don't think I'll use it that often, but I think it's a Pokemon that can see some good use if we pick the right weeks. So it's going to be interesting to see how Galarian Mr. Mime performs. I was originally going to draft Mr. Mime, but in the most recent voting that we do to sort of change tiers and make things more balanced, they moved Mr. Mime to tier 4. So I had to go down to Mr. Mime G in tier 5. But that's okay. You know what, we'll take our tier 5 with honor. I accidentally opened Steam, don't mind me. Anyways, we are free to move on to our final Pokemon. And for the final Pokemon, I wanted a little more power and a decent speed tier. Originally, I can do a little story time. And anyways, originally I was going to draft Hoopa Unbound, because Hoopa Unbound and Agron were a good pairing. Agron covered a lot of Hoopa Unbound's weaknesses, and Hoopa Unbound was a Pokemon with ridiculous offensive stats who could just come in, click buttons, and even if they don't kill, they can do like 50% to most things, which is incredible. So having like a Scarf on that thing would have been a threat. But unfortunately, I guess someone else had the same idea, and it was sniped from me early in the game, even though I was going to save it for like my last pick. So unfortunately, we lost that option, but as I was looking through, I made some changes. I picked up Azelf to get rid of our lost Psychic type, and for our lost Dark type, I decided to pick up Urshifu's Single Strike form. Urshifu is an incredibly powerful Pokemon. It has a nice 97 speed tier, which is a little under 100, but it's a lot faster than most threats. It has good HP, defense, and a good attack stat, plus its ability, which is its unique ability, makes it so that it can punch right through any sort of protects. So things like Clerics and things like Toxapex with its bunker whatever are basically useless to us because we can just break right through them and not have to worry about that. Our signature move is banned, which allows guaranteed crits with like a 75 power move, which if it wasn't banned, I'd say, what the hell are we doing? That's insane. So we don't have access to Wicked Blow, but we do have access to tons of other dark moves and some fighting moves, which can give us a lot of power. Plus, we have tons of coverage with things like Power Up Punch, Iron Head, Zen Headbutt. We have U-Turn for Pivot, we have Thunder Punch for Water types, Rock Slide for Flying types, Poison Jab for Fairy types. Yeah, so it's very interesting. Mostly, I know people use this as sort of a physical offensive threat. I have seen and I have personally used a few sets of this and mainly Urshifu Rapid Strike where they have done bulk up sets with Drain Punch, so that could be something interesting to pull out one week. But yeah, I think Urshifu is a great addition to power on our team, and it's a great way to cap out our draft. I even seen someone said after I drafted, like drafting single strike Urshifu in the final round is a lot of power, and I said I know, and that's why I picked it. But anyways, yeah, that's the whole draft. Welcome to the team. We have quite the team ahead of us. I do not know the schedule yet because the schedule is not out, but you will be seeing the video next week for that, so stay tuned for that. If you watched through this whole thing, thank you very much. If you did not because you just want to watch the battles, that's fine. You're not even going to hear this. But yeah, I'm very excited for this. I hope that we have a better season than we did last one. But yeah, anyways, I'm going to be calling out. This is Monsoon Excitement from the Cold War Cryogonals. Make sure you all have a good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you're watching this, and good